Parents, welcome to Parents Time Out. This is when we talk to the experts about some of the challenges that parents are facing today. I'm Kim Botto. I lead Kids Club at Crossroads. I'm also the mom of 5 and the grandma of soon to be 9. And some of the grandkids are here today, so we might hear them. So COVID and quarantining has brought out all kinds of things. We've seen masks, social distancing, different levels of risk tolerance in our friends and our family. And one thing that we're hearing over and over again from parents is that emotions seem at an all-time high. We're seeing big emotions from our kids. And I think if we're honest as parents, most of us would admit that we are more highly emotional than is typical. So helping our kids learn strategies to calm down, or maybe even learn strategies to keep those meltdowns from happening, is what we're going to be talking about today. And we're going to be talking about how we get ahead of that negative behavior. Because we want to reduce those challenging behaviors. We are joined by Gail Cicak. Welcome, Gail.
Thank you.
Have you? Gail is a biblical counselor, and she also is a parent trainer at Tried and True Parenting. And Gail is dealing with this herself because Gail is a mom of 2, ages 10 and 12, right?
Right.
Yeah, so that's me, and they're in the age where they probably had a lot of social things going on before COVID hit, so they've probably experienced all kinds of changes in schedules. And
yes.
Gail, what would you like to tell us about yourself?
Gosh, well, you covered the major things: my kind of purpose, mom, parent trainer, biblical counselor, and it's just a privilege to get to do those things and be invited into people's homes and families and to come alongside them in their parenting. So I learn. I am not an expert. I did hear you say that in your intro. Let's be clear. I'm a parent too, and my struggles are very similar. So,
well, you know what, Gail, that's why we love having you on Parents Time Out, because you're real. And actually, you are an expert because you train all kinds of parents and you've lived it yourself. So don't discount.
Okay, I receive that.
That's right. Okay, good. Because God has given you gifts. So we're talking about just high emotions today. And I thought that we could start by, there are some things that we can do preventatively to maybe minimize those outbursts. And I know you have a whole tool belt full of things. So I would love for you to share. And you know what? Maybe even start with us. Because as a parent, I find that sometimes I look around me when my kids were little and they'd all be out of control. But then I noticed that, it's actually stemming from me being out of control and emotional. So what can we do as parents?
I totally agree that that's the place to start, is with ourselves as parents, because we're teachers. We are our kids' teachers, and our kids are looking to us to learn and to know how they're supposed to act and do. And so that's first and foremost, is that we want to be what we want to see in our kids. That's something we say over and over at Tried and True: be what you want to see in your kids. And so I think it is really important that we as parents and adults learn how to calm ourselves, how to regulate ourselves. And I think that just takes knowing ourselves and spending time thinking through, okay, what are those behaviors that really get under my skin as a parent? Okay, think through those things. And when my child does that, because it's likely that will happen, and you know that because it gets under your skin, and you tend to maybe have an outburst because of that. We can think through those things and come up with a plan for ourselves as parents. We call them stay calm plans. And so we go through kind of an exercise of, okay, when my child does this, I do this. And maybe I need to take deep breaths. Maybe I need to walk away. If it's safe for you to, if you don't have little kids, it's safe for you to walk away for a few minutes. Maybe I need to say a prayer. Jesus, help. That is a good prayer as a parent. Jesus, help. So that's what I would say in terms of starting with us as parents is doing that work ourselves to come up with how we can stay calm for our kids. And then we get to the teaching our kids part and the preventive teaching that you just mentioned.
Said, and I know Jason or Kristen put it up, be what you want to see in your kids. That's so good because they do mimic what we're doing and they pick up on our emotions. And so what are some things, we've got some puzzles going on in the background. What are some things that we can do? You mentioned some things like some calm down. What would some of those things be that we do for ourselves and for our kids?
Okay, so one tool that I love is called the Engine. And many parents out there, you may have heard of this because it's used in schools and occupational therapy. And so it's the Engine, and it's by the Alert program. And to learn more about it, you can go to alertprogram.com. But this is an engine. So this is my engine. Gail's engine. I'm trying to get it on there right. And you can see that it's just a simple paper plate with a brad and an arrow, and then you color in. So each of these different sections means something different. And basically, this is a tool that you can teach to your kids in a neutral moment. We always want to teach our kids in a neutral moment. We aren't teaching them when they're up here, when things have escalated. It's so important that we're preventively teaching them. We're teaching them before the behavior happens and at a neutral time, because that's when we can teach effectively, is when everyone's in a good place. And so this is an engine. And again, you can, I saw the website flash up there. You can check that out to learn more about it. But basically, this is a tool that helps our kids recognize and communicate their feelings. And that's something we want to help our kids do, and it moves them towards self-regulation. So it becomes a language, a common language in your house where everyone has an engine, and they can move it based on how they're feeling. If they're feeling green, all things are go, and, I'm doing really well. If I'm feeling blue, I'm sad. And again, check out the alertprogram.com, and it'll give you all sorts of tools on how to teach this to your kids. But this is a great tool, again, to have common language and get ahead of the behavior. And I really help our kids give a voice to what they're feeling, because there's a need behind every behavior. The behavior just doesn't come because they want it to. There's a need, and this is an awesome tool for kids to give a voice to their feelings and their needs. So, I think it's important as parents that the feelings are not bad. Any of the feelings that our kids have are not bad. We want them to feel those things, but it's important that we teach them how to communicate and give a voice to that instead of it coming out in an eruption and a tantrum. So
what age is a good age to use the engine with?
Yeah, little kids, you could start, you can start with toddlers. And then, once they get up to, it depends on if you've introduced it when they're little, when they're kind of pre-teens and teens, of course, they don't, want to pull out. They don't want to they don't want to do that, but it's still about the common language, I think, in the home. And you're building that common language, and you can incorporate that into your conversation, and it's important for parents to do it too. Like I said, we're all going to make an engine in our family, and my engine's running a little red right now, and it just becomes this way of communicating. So I think little kids.
And you talked about, we need to talk about it at a neutral time. So when our kid is having a meltdown, that is not the time to bring it out and say, oh, you are over here in the red right now. However, after I would think when we first start using it, after the meltdown would be a good time when they're feeling calm then. Because actually, parents, in case you didn't know, when kids are having a meltdown, they've actually lost access to like their thinking part of their brain. So when you think they're so irrational, yeah, they are. That's so then afterwards, I guess we could go back to that when they're first learning and just say, oh, I think you were red because red feels like this. Is that a way to help them learn how to use it?
Yeah, I think you can absolutely use that in your conversation, because you're right. After the moment and the escalation, and then after things are calm, absolutely, we want to teach to that and give language to that. And so I think that's a great idea, Kim.
So what are some other strategies that you would use?
Well, one thing that happens in my house a lot is, or a big thing that my husband and I try to do is share power. So a lot of times kids, kids want to have some control. There's so much swirling around and there's so much that's out of their control, so many changes. Oh my gosh, it's especially now, in this last year. And so I think, for parents, if we can be looking to share power with our kids, give them choices instead of just saying no. I think sharing power is beautiful. It actually shows that we are strong. It shows strength in parenting. It doesn't show weakness. I think it benefits our kids too, because it lets them have control over things that we can let them have control over. If it's in our power as parents, we want to be able to say yes to things. And so we can share power. We can offer compromises. We can teach our kids to ask for a compromise. For example, my son loves playing video games. And so I get, as a parent, I'll often walk up to him and be like, okay, it's time to get off your video game. Well, he's right in the middle of his game and he's on with his buddies. And so we've taught him at a neutral moment beforehand, you can ask for a compromise. And so he'll say, can I ask for a compromise? And I'll say, yes. Mom, can I have 5 more minutes? My game's almost over. And as long as we don't need to be out the door in less than 5 minutes, or we don't have, as long as I can say yes, I want to be able to say yes and share that power with him because it's something that's important to him. So I think that's something that us as parents can be looking to do, and to teach our kids how to, again, use their voice to ask for what they need and want.
Well, and I really like what you said as far as that's being strong as a parent. I think sometimes we've grown up to believe that if we aren't in control, that somehow we're weak. But actually, like, even with the choices, we use that strategy in Kids Club all the time. We're still in control because we're only offering choices that we're okay with.
Absolutely.
And I have really found, especially now with, we're kind of going through the younger years again with the grandkids, the power of yes, responding in a positive manner. I had just earlier, somebody wanted to have, they wanted to have a cookie before they ate their lunch. And I think years ago, I would have said, no, you know the rules. You eat your lunch and then you have your dessert. And then there would have been arguing. Instead, I said, yes, you can have it as soon as you're finished with your lunch. And it was like, okay. Mm-hmm. So I think as parents, because you're right, a lot of times it escalates because we're kind of fighting to maintain control. But I love that sharing power and just bring it as
and
that.
Thinking through, I mean, that's so beautiful, the example you just gave, because to even say yes to that, yes, you can have it after your meal and you can set it right next to you and it's right there. You can keep your eyes on that. It's not going anywhere, and that's the same if, our kids want to snack at an opportune time, or, it's just what you said is so beautiful, because we want our kids to be their best. And actually, that's a really good point. The food is a really good point too, because so often we forget that our little kids' brains and bodies are running a million miles an hour and doing all the things they're trying to do. And they have physical needs. They need to be fed, and they need to drink water, and they need to get exercise. And so, I mean, that happens to me all the time where, I'm with one of my kids and, it starts getting the tone's a little sassy and it's kind of off. It's like, that's not really like you, and then I realize, oh, did you grab a snack after school? And just thinking through those physical needs of, okay, we have to be feeding their bodies and brains because they're doing so much and they need that every couple hours. And so we as adults, we need that too. We certainly can get hangry too, but I think for kids,
Right.
it's even more important if we remember they're growing, their bodies are doing so much and their brains are doing so much. And that's something we can do as parents to set them up for success. You can put a bowl of healthy snacks on the counter, and that's kind of, you're welcome to have those, or, it can look different for every family, but yeah, that's certainly not a power struggle we want to pick, right?
Right. And by doing that, like by saying, hey, did you have a snack after school? That helps them learn, oh, I need an afternoon snack, or I'm just going to get mad and upset. And
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely.
Do you have any other calm down strategies?
I do. Okay, another calm down strategy is what we call cool down cubes. And I happen to have some right here.
Nice.
So these are these little plastic ice cubes that you stick in the freezer to put in drinks, but we use them as a calming activity, or a calming thing. And so you put them in the freezer, and you can actually write on them. This one says take a walk. This one says listen to music. You can write on here in Sharpie marker things that the child can do when they're starting to ramp up. You can say, why don't you go grab a cool down cube from the freezer? And you can have, like, I've just got this little box filled with them, and I keep them in the freezer. And the child can go and they can grab one out. They can pick, maybe I don't want to take a walk right now. Do a puzzle. You can put down and look up online. You can Google these and get all sorts of ideas, and let your kids be a part of making them. Because again, we want to teach this tool in a neutral moment. And you want to bring your kids into it, just like with the engine, with, coloring it and making it and all that as you're talking through it. Do the same thing with these cool down cubes. Let them be a part of, like, what would be calming to me? What do I want to write on here? And so when they grab them out of the freezer, that cold temperature actually shocks their system. They can put them on their cheeks or on their forehead, and that has a physical effect, a calming effect on them. And then they can do whatever it says on the cool down cube, and they can do the calming activity. So that's an awesome tool, and it's super fun for all ages of kids. And you can change them. You could have different, if you have a wide range of children, it could look differently. We have something else called a calm down kit. You can use the same sort of like craft box type of thing. You can fill it with crayons and paper. You can fill it with a Bible verse. You can fill it with anything you think would be calming. You could put chewing gum in there. That sensory and the gum is so good. Again, these are calming strategies for when our kids are starting to get ramped up. We're not at escalated. We're not having a tantrum. You're not going to, shove these in your child's face as they're losing all their stuff.
Right.
As you're noticing, your kid's best. And as you're noticing things are starting to get ramped up, you can offer these things for your kids to help them to calm down. And the scent, I was talking about the gum or the mints, suckers, things that hit those pressure points. You also have, you could do physical things. Sometimes your kids need to go run, right? Why don't you go take a jog around the house, or, get out there and play with them. We have something called the magic mustache.
Yes.
It's the pressure point above your lip, and you hold it there. And that's kind of fun for a little, I do that too. Do you ever notice sometimes adults sit like that, and it's a pressure point and it calms us. Yeah. So there's all sorts of things that we can do to equip our kids and set them up and teach them how to get calm.
I love the calming cubes. I'd never heard of that before. So I'm definitely going to check that out.
Fun. You can get them on Amazon, super inexpensive, or maybe the dollar store even.
Yeah. And I just wanted to point out too, sometimes with our kids, we think because they're like this, that they need to go run. But we know our kids best, and we need to be curious and figure out what it is. Because actually, sometimes when our kids are like this, they don't need to run. They need quiet, and they may need to sit And I love working with them to figure out what goes in their box. I have a grandson who loves to just do things. When he starts getting like that, it's helpful to sit and maybe play with Play-Doh
Yeah.
or play with pipe cleaners. For the girls, we'll do fingernail polish because they'll sit. And the nice thing about that is then you're making eye contact with them. And it's
I
just,
love that.
yeah, it's a sweet moment. I would not put fingernail polish in the calm down box of a kid. Leave that up high.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got these strategies to help calm down. But Gail, sometimes those strategies don't work and we blow right through them and our child has a major meltdown. What do we do?
Yeah. Well, let me start by saying this. There's a quote, and it is, our kids need love when they deserve it the least. They need love most when they deserve it the least. Okay, so that would be something good for all of us to remember when this is happening. And this happens to all of us. I mean, gosh, this happens to me. I have my own temper tantrums, if I'm honest. And so thinking through, again, it's getting ahead of the behavior and thinking through, okay, when this happens, what are we going to do? We teach something called a safe home plan where you really think through where it'd be a good idea for everyone to separate when that happens, for to give some distance, some space. And so where would be a good place for people to go? You know, maybe if this is happening, maybe, you know, kids go to their rooms if they're old enough. If they're not old enough and it's not safe for them to be in their room by themselves, keep them within eye distance of you, but maybe it's the couch. And everyone, you can talk through as a family, where, and maybe you have a code word, you have a signal. Maybe it's, you know, we need to take 5. Why doesn't everyone take 5? That could be, you know, a signal. Come up with what would work for your family. You could, you know, it's you're going to teach it like a fire drill. What happens when a fire happens? It's the same idea. You're going to think through, and as a family, where would be a safe place for everyone to go and to do their calming down, right? And I think that's important. You know, I know when that happens in my house, space is what helps that child to calm down typically, and time. And so we're going to, you know, give that time and give that space and then check back in. And, you know, it might take 5 minutes. It might take 5 hours, depending on the age of the child and what's in the unique child. Every family is unique, so it could look differently. But I think just allowing that time and having a plan in place for when that happens, so that, you know, the child who's having the tantrum, it doesn't then become a spectacle with all the other kids there, and then you're trying to manage that, and the kids are, you know, asking questions. You know, it could look a million ways, but
yeah, and you can have different strategies for different kids too. One of my daughters is especially spirited, and so could get to that high emotion really quickly, which would then often get me like this too. And we came up with a thing where sometimes we couldn't even speak it, so we would just go like this.
Yeah.
And sometimes we say timeout. Sometimes we do that, and we knew what that meant is, like, that was really for me, because I have a tendency to just keep talking louder and higher pitched. And so that meant we need a timeout. We go to a separate space. We get our breath. We come back, say, are you ready? And then go. Yeah. I think the important thing is to remember, we can't just go to our separate spaces and then come back and act like nothing happened.
Yes.
We need to resolve it. But yeah, that's a great strategy, Gail, to make a plan before it escalates.
I think so too. And you know, and grace over all of it. You know, life is messy and we're all human, and it gets real messy in our homes, and it can feel out of control and it can feel chaotic. And if we can just remember that our kids just need us in those moments. And they need our love in those moments. How can we help? How can we come alongside instead of, kind of having a critical eye at our kids, or, certainly we don't want to be wounding them further. And so if we can try to just, I know for me, it's trying to just keep the emotion out of it, and like manage my own emotions and do my own self-regulation can just help me to just be tenderhearted to my kids in a time when they're trying to express something and something's getting them going, like we started out talking about. There's a need behind every behavior. And so, and then absolutely to your point, just the follow-up. Yeah, we don't just come back together and pretend like everything's fine.
Right.
That's the teaching. That's the, how could we have done this better? What did you notice that, talking through with the child who had the tantrum, like, what did you notice about your body? What was happening? What were you thinking? So that they can start getting cued into their own things that set them off. Just like we have to become aware of our own things as parents. So it's hard. It's hard.
Because sometimes they will have tantrums in the most inconvenient places, like in a public place. What do we do if we have a toddler sprawled on the mall floor in the middle of the food court at lunchtime? What do we do in a situation like that?
I don't know if there's one right answer to that question, because I don't know, but I would say if it can't be resolved, if you can't get the child calm there, I remember those times, and it stinks because when our kids are doing, are kind of out of control, then we lose out as parents because, I would just leave, I guess is how I would answer that. I would not leave your child is not what I meant. Leave the mall or wherever you said, you're eating at the food court, and get to a safe place, your car, let the child calm down. Gosh, I remember those times, and it is hard. Those physical tantrum struggles are hard. And so I don't know if that's the answer you wanted.
Yeah. No, I just want to know what you thought. Yeah, I get out. And as parents, when I see moms or dads who are in that situation, I think give them a thumbs up, give them a smile, give them I was there an hour ago or 2 days ago. That helps so much because so often shame enters into it for us. Gail, we're about out of time. So is there anything that you would like to leave with our parents before we sign off?
Oh, gosh. Well, if you're interested in any classes or trainings around parenting, you can check out our website, triedandtrueparenting.com. And we have a few different models that we offer, and they're all awesome. And so I'll just give a plug for that. But you're not alone. I'm in it with you. Kim's in it with you. To your last point, I just think it's important we know that as parents, you're not the only one that has, this behavior, and it's hard. So we got to stick together.
Right. And I was just thinking, you were saying, like, when they're having a meltdown, it's not about us. I think that's important for me. We have a tendency to take it personally. And I saw a quote once where they said, your kid's not giving you a hard time, they're having a hard time. Mm-hmm. And I think just realizing that they're trying to figure it out. Their little brains are just not fully formed. And so parents, if we see you in the mall, if Gail or I see you in the mall and your kid's having a meltdown, we're going to give you an air high five and a thumbs up. And I would encourage you to do that to other people, because we're meant to live in community and God created us as encouragers. So go out and encourage another parent today. And thanks, Gail, for joining us. Bye, parents.